Sweet. So yeah, my name is Zach Rigsby. I am the discipleship pastor here, which means you probably don't know what I do. So I basically community groups and men's, women's, adult stuff. That's pretty much what I do. I'm from Greenville, so I was born here. I grew up at Fellowship Greenville. It was Southside Fellowship back then on Woodruff Road. We were in a gym. A lot of names that I heard back then I now realize were important and I should have paid attention. My youth pastors were Jim Thompson. Anybody know Jim Thompson? Yeah, he was my youth pastor. Josh Amos. Anybody know Josh Amos? Ooh, yeah, that was a little bit harder. And then Jason Malone. Nobody knows Jason Malone, I'm sure. So, oh, what, you do? All right, yeah. So those three guys were my youth pastor here at Fellowship back in the day. And so if you want to know what my life is like now, just imagine that, 10 years from now, you're now working with Tyler and Dallas and Matt Dinsky, and you're like, man, all of these guys are unbelievable and amazing, and now I get to work with them. And it feels like a blessing, and they're all smarter than me. That's kind of how that feels. So today, I wanted to show you a picture of my family real quick. Yep, but you see, here's the thing. I did not love pictures like this growing up when my mom was like, because every year in August, they're like, hey, picture time, we're gonna hang it in the hall and you'll be embarrassed. And so now whenever I get to show pictures of my family, I show what the picture taking is actually like. So yeah, there are pictures of my kids smiling, but I like these better because that's really what our day was them being like, can we go home now? Even Eden, she can't talk, but she was thinking it as well. Just a little bit more. I also played tennis at Clemson. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Any Clemson fans in here? Yeah, a little bit. How about South Carolina fans? See, I feel like there are more South Carolina fans here in general. Ohio State fans? Ooh, yeah, see, there's a random collection of Ohio State fans in Greenville. And whatever team California pulls for, I don't know, but it's growing. So we're talking about navigating the dark, which you guys, I believe you've been in a series on that. Am I correct, or am I just misinformed? I am correct. Lots of nodding heads, some yeses. There we go, some interaction. So what are some of the topics you guys have done in navigating the dark? Feel free to yell it out. I won't look, so I don't know who it is, just in case you're wrong. But I don't know what they were, so you can't be wrong. Prayer? Okay, so navigating the dark, prayer. What else? Disappointment, that's a D. I know there are some D's in there. Any other ones? I honestly don't know how many there were, so that might be it. Were there any other ones? Fear, all right. One more shot. Is there one more? Probably, yeah. I probably feel like there was one too, but I don't know because that's not the one I'm talking about. All right, so tonight we're talking about, those are a couple of them. Tonight we're doing disillusionment, okay? So yeah, that's a long word. Takes more letters to make that word. We're going to talk about how to navigate the dark of disillusionment. And what I would like to hear from you before we go really much further is, what does disillusionment mean? It's probably an SAT word or an ACT word or whatever test people take now. Any ideas what disillusionment means? I can call on names, but I'm not going to do that. To clear up stuff? All right, yeah. What else? Oh, some hands? Yes? Ooh, getting hit with reality like a truck. I wish that was my definition. I'm not going to lie. What's up? You got one? Are you good? Yeah, in the back. Taking off rose-colored glasses. Oh, there you go. There's metaphor mixed in that one. I like that. All right, what's one more? Definition of this side. Like, this side's been really good. This side's been quieter. So let's go. Yeah.
Seeing things as they really are, not as how you thought they were.
Ooh, seeing things as they really. Did you Google it? Oh, that was good though. Seeing things as they really. I was like, as they really are, not a. So I was thinking, as somebody's just, hey, give me some definitions. I would probably Google it and be like, man, I got a great definition. But I have a definition for you guys tonight, and it is right here. Disillusionment is the condition of being dissatisfied or defeated in expectation or hope. Okay? And so I find this definition helpful in part because of the lines that are underlined, expectation and hope. So in thinking about disillusionment, words that I found to be helpful in engaging with this have been the ideas of expectation and hope, things that I've placed like a high expectation on, or I've been placing my hope in. Okay, so as we go through this evening, I want this to be ringing in your head, the condition of being dissatisfied or defeated in expectation or hope. Have you guys ever been disillusioned? No? Yeah? Let's throw some hands up. I feel like this. Raise your hand if you've ever been disillusioned. If not, just wait. Like next year, you'll be able to raise it, right? No, so yeah, disillusionment is something that like the more and more you think about it and the more you chew on it, the more you're like, yeah, man, this is a very present part of life and reality. And if you, like, I don't know if you've been blessed to talk with people that are 60, 70, 80 years old, which I'm not 60, 70, 80 years old, but if you have been, like you'll notice there, like often there's weariness, like the wearing of life over time. And disillusionment can do that. Like it can just hammer at you over and over again as your expectations and hope are misaligned and reality comes crashing in. As my friend over here said, reality comes crashing in and as a reminder of, hey, this is how things really are, okay? So just to give you, I'm gonna kind of think about this in two parts tonight. Disillusionment in life and disillusionment with Jesus, okay? So like these will be our bookends, if you would, of the evening. Disillusionment in life and disillusionment with Jesus, okay? So start out disillusionment in life. Is anybody in here a Lord of the Rings fan besides Tyler, who, wonderful book choice? I got some hands up. All right, I love science fiction fantasy books, which by extension means I love science fiction and fantasy movies. And I remember the first time I saw a Lord of the Rings movie, I was like 14 years old and went to the movie theater, sat like the third row, which I was not happy about, and because I had to look up like this the whole time. Sat in the third row, and we watched, 3 hours. It was like one of the earliest movies to be crazy long, just 3 hours of Lord of the Rings movies. And it was a wonderful thing. I loved it, read the books. I was so excited. And then next thing you know, 2 years ago, Amazon's like, you know what, guys, we can do a TV show about this. This will be so good. And we'll do it from back in the day with, I forgot her name. I just forgot her name. Galadriel, and it'll just be so wonderful. And so I was like, all right, they're pouring a lot of money into this, so surely it'll be good. At the very least, the CGI will be really good. And so then I waited till it came out. And then I waited to hear some people's thoughts on it, because I was trying to control my expectations, right? I was trying to control them. I was trying to keep them a little bit lower so that I wasn't disappointed with it, because I loved it. And I was like, people like it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and watch it. And guess what? I thought it was terrible. Did anybody like it? No, see, yes, I was worried. You'd be like, no, you just don't understand, Zach. No, I did not love it. But because my expectations were higher, it was really hard for me to get like 2-3 episodes in. It was fine. But then you kept going. It got harder and harder and harder until it was an active duty to kind of finish that thing, okay? I'll give you another one. Anybody heard of Dune? One hand. Ooh, I think this is more. Come on, I love this. Dune is my favorite book, just so you know. They came out, and I read the book, and I was like, this is so good. And then I found out that they made a TV show or a movie about it in 1984, or something like that. It was like 1980. Okay, they came out with a movie in the 1980s with Patrick Stewart playing one of the characters, which he's great, but not for Jason Momoa's character, let's be honest. And so I was like, I got really excited because I read the book, went and saw the movie, and it was terrible. So then I hear that they're gonna make another movie about it, and I'm like, you know what? My expectations got shattered last time. Low expectations, really low expectations going into this one. And then next thing you know, I really enjoyed the movie. And I'm excited that it's coming out on March 1st, which if you didn't know when it's coming out, the second part is coming out on March 1st, okay? So yeah, expectations and hope, where we place them, how we think about them, really play a big role. One personal way for me, this played a role. I said I played tennis growing up. Any tennis players in here? Oh man, yeah, see? It's growing in popularity in America. It's the second most popular sport in the world. I told myself this a lot growing up. But tennis, I grew up playing tennis, and started out 14s, so was pretty good. And then 16s, made it to #1 in the state, which sounds like it's not bad. Sounds like, back then, tennis has changed from then now, but back then, #1 in the state sounded really, really good. Turns out, that was not that good. They were like, really what mattered was state and national stuff, okay? And so finally, though, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go. There's the biggest tournament in the state. My goal was to win that. I worked really, really hard. When I was 14 years old, I got 6th place. The next year, I got 5th place. The next year, I got 4th place. This is not an exaggeration, friends. It was really hard for me. Then I got 3rd place, and then I got 2nd place until finally my last year when I was able to play, I got 1st place. And so you can imagine how my expectations and hope had been built over the years. As each year, I got a little bit closer, got like a little bit more. I'm like, oh, just that close. Just the sun hadn't been in my eyes, I would have won. Like the narratives you tell yourself. until finally I won it. And I'll never forget the feeling after winning that match as an 18-year-old, and like really important because you're going to colleges, winning that match. I'll never forget afterwards, I was being interviewed by some reporter, which I was like, this is weird. And I just had a moment of silence. I was like, wow, that was really not that big a deal. Like my expectations and hope and the joy that I had placed in that were just very disproportionate. I had placed my hope in something that couldn't bear the weight of it, okay? And this happened again, which is nice. It means I didn't learn the first time. This happened again when I went to college. I picked Clemson in order to be a pro tennis player, which, if you know much about tennis, it's an international sport, means there's a whole lot of people in the world that are really good. And so I went there, and about 2 years in, I realized, like, I'm not going to be a pro tennis player. I don't want that for my life, and just the traveling and everything like that, but also not nearly that good. And at that point, it had become anchored as an identity and part of who I was. Like, I saw myself as a tennis player, not as a beloved son of God, not as known, redeemed, and loved by Jesus. I saw myself as a tennis player first, and everything else second. And so you can imagine how life hit me like a truck, right? Realizing that moment of realization. Went in for my scholarship, and I'm like, they're like, hey, we're thinking about giving you blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's great. I'm probably not playing next year, so it's cool. Then I left, and thankfully, I did finish out my college playing there. But still, that expectation and hope, those are two moments in my life that when you think about disillusionment in life, things that immediately come to my mind. And things that, in telling you, I'm hoping that you can taste a little bit of what it's like, because when you experience it, you'll know. And when you experience that, you'll realize and you'll feel and you'll see that, hey, things like that are transitory. They're smoke, vapor, as Ecclesiastes say, vanity of vanities, right? Here today and gone tomorrow, in that sense, okay? So that's disillusionment in life. Another way to think about this would be disillusionment with Jesus. I told my wife that when we talk about disillusionment with Jesus, she said, Zach, that's not possible. I was like, I love you, Amy, that's why. That's right. But the way, and I had to clarify this with her, but disillusionment with Jesus, what I was talking about is the hope and expectations that we place on Jesus, right? The misunderstandings. Tim Mackey has a saying that if you don't understand something about the Bible, it's probably because you're coming to it wrong. And I'm thinking about this in a similar way. So it's ways that we think about Jesus, whether that's just from culturally growing up in the South, whether that's just something, hope that we've misplaced in him. It's like, yeah, Jesus, why am I not happy right now in this moment? Why am I still broken? Jesus, why do I still struggle with this? I thought that, placing my hope in you would make all of my struggles and all of my heartache and all of my hurt go away. And that's not how it works, okay? Jesus can handle our trust and our faith and our hope, but he can handle it, but when we bring our own, when we craft Jesus in our image, when we craft him in an image that's not of the Bible, that's when we can get disillusioned with him, okay? So where are we going today? How to navigate the dark of disillusionment in life and with Jesus. In order to do this, I want to look at two stories and then two responses, all right? Two stories, two responses, just to give you an idea of where we're headed. And our main text for the day is going to be in Matthew, but we're not starting in Matthew. Partially because I want you to, when we get to Matthew, I want you to feel the weight of what's happening, okay? It can be really easy when we have Bibles that pop open really nicely like this, when we're detached from the ancient Near Eastern Israelite culture. It can be easy to read words like Messiah and Christ, and even understanding John the Baptist's role. It can be really easy to just kind of read that and move on. We can read a title like The Christ, which it says in the text, which it'll say in the text today, and just keep moving. And so what I wanted to do instead, so that we kind of feel a little bit more the context for our passage, is I'm gonna go way back to the very beginning. Who knows the first book in the Bible? Anybody? Genesis. Yeah, there we go. Easy. They got loud on that one. I don't know if you noticed. They're confident in that one. So we're gonna start in Genesis. In Genesis, God created. You don't have to. We'll go quickly, so you don't have to. We're not gonna go verse by verse on this. But Genesis, God created the heavens and the earth. Created the animals. Created the land. Created the water. And then He made Adam and Eve. Right? Took Adam and Eve, put them in the garden, and He gave them one command: please don't eat of the tree in the middle of the garden. right? And what did they do? Anybody know what they did? They ate it, yeah. And we are all living in light of that decision to this day. And so when they made the decision to eat from the tree, what happened was the illusions fell, right? From that moment on, illusions entered our world. And these illusions look a lot of different ways: wealth, fame, power, money. They look a lot of different ways, but the illusions fell. We now see the world through crooked eyes. See the world through glasses. Maybe not rose-colored, but we see the world through glasses, right? And that is, but when that happened, God didn't just say, hey man, you guys botched it. What did he do? He made a promise. He made a promise and said, one day there will be an offspring of Eve who will crush the head of the serpent. And the serpent might bite his heel, but he's going to crush the head of the serpent. Okay, so from the very beginning, we have hope and a promise of the removing of the illusions of this world, right? And over time, that person, the name became the Messiah, right? Mashiach. And other people's Hebrew is better than mine, probably Jim's. But the Messiah entered the picture, okay? So we can fast forward to Abraham. Abraham, God called a people for himself out of Ur, called Abraham out. He's like, Abraham, come on, let's go. And Abraham came, and then he made a promise to Abraham. He said, Abraham, I'm going to give you, anybody know? What did he give Abraham a lot of? Descendants. I heard that one. Sorry, there were a lot of non-committal answers. So descendants, he promised him he would give him many offspring, and that his offspring would be a blessing to the nations, okay? So we have a snake crusher. Now we have an offspring who's going to be a blessing to all the nations, okay? Let's keep fast forwarding a little bit more. You go through Moses, Mount Sinai. The people are in the land. And then you have Judges. And you have Samuel. Who was in the sermon this morning? Anybody, any hands? Yeah, Jason teed me up tonight, I'm not going to lie, which I really appreciated, because our text today was talking about the promise that God made to David. He made a promise to David, and that promise was, David, there's going to be a descendant from your house that will rule and reign forever, okay? So we have Snake Crusher, we have a descendant of Abraham, and then we have a descendant of David, okay? But then after David, you have Solomon, and after Solomon, you have the nation of Israel split, okay? Israel and Judah split. And with a lot of unfaithfulness between the two kingdoms, until finally the Lord brought the Assyrians and the Babylonians to conquer them and take them into exile, or removing from the holy land that God had given them to live as his select people, right? And then 400 years go by. Is 400 years a long time? I mean, it's a long time. I think it's a very long time. I mean, if you were to look just from the very beginning, from Abraham to when Jesus comes on the scene, that's like 2,000 years. What happened 2,000 years ago? Was Jesus alive 2,000 years ago from today? Let's do math. Come on. 2023. Yeah. So Jesus would have been alive 2,000 years ago from today. Yeah. Jesus would have been alive 2,000 years ago from today. If you just want an idea of how long from Abraham's promise to Jesus coming onto the scene, okay? And during that 400-year gap when God was silent, the nation of Israel, they were conquered by the Romans. And they were living in oppression. They were worshiping in a rebuilt temple, and pretty much life was a constant reminder of the fact that they needed a savior. Just imagine if you wake up and you get in your car and you leave your home and you pass 2 military garrisons, and then you pass some people that have been crucified over here on the hill, and then you finally get to the place where you can buy bread, right? Like every day. And the only hope that you have, because you're a small, tiny little nation in the middle of this gigantic Roman Empire, only hope that you have is Jesus, is the Messiah, is the Christ, okay? So this is it's a desperate hope. And this is the middle of the context that Jesus came into the middle of, saying, hey, kingdom of heaven is here. Okay, so this was a polarizing time. These were violent times in the middle, and these were violent and aggressive times. Zealots were assassinating Roman officers, trying to take the kingdom for themselves. I mean, it was a tense time. Okay, it was a powder keg. And so I want us to feel that as we step into our text this morning. And our text is Matthew 11. okay? It's Matthew 11. Sword drill. I win because I had it bookmarked because I knew ahead of time. Matthew 11. And I just want to do the first 2 verses to start us out, okay? When Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in their cities. Now when John heard in prison about the deeds of the Christ, he sent word by his disciples. All right, let's pause right here. What can you guys tell me about John the Baptist? Hint, his name. He was Baptist. Yeah, he baptized. What else? Do we know anything else about John the Baptist? Jesus' cousin? What? I heard somebody from over here. Okay. He ate bugs. Yeah, he ate bugs. That's right. Anything else we know about John the Baptist? We're doing a good job. He had weird clothes, like camel's hair, clothes made out of camel's hair. He baptized Jesus, right? He baptized Jesus. When Jesus started his ministry, he went to John the Baptist, and he got baptized. And John was preaching. Was John soft with his words? No, John was not soft with his words. Called what? Brood of vipers. That was one of his. John, he threw heat, and he did not hold back. Okay, and he's his cousin, so he grew up with Jesus. He grew up knowing Jesus. Imagine 30 years. This is the 30. You did the friendship contest up here. 30 years. It's a long time to know somebody, right? And to baptize and be like, hey man, this is the Messiah. John knew that this was the Messiah. Okay, and then he asked this question, verse 3. Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? Which, I'm just imagining, so I have a twin brother, right? I'm 33 years old. I have a twin brother. And nobody knows me better than my brother does at all, right? And just 33 years of doing life together, nobody will know me quite like him, and that in a unique way. And this would be, I'm just imagining knowing somebody that long and asking, hey man, are you really who you say you are? Doubting, the level of doubt, the level of, John had an expectation and a hope that he is wrestling with in this question. Okay, so I want us to feel this a little bit. Are you the one who is to come, or shall we look for another? So first thing I want you to kind of dig into from this question is disillusionment presents an opportunity. Disillusionment is an opportunity, okay? So disillusionment can sound and feel like a negative thing, but disillusionment presents an opportunity. In this text, John's disillusionment with his expectation of Jesus, he was expecting a military conqueror. He knew that there was going to be blessing, but he also believed there was going to be judgment, right? He was expecting a military ruler that would sit on the throne and usher in the kingdom of Israel forever and ever and ever. And John thought he was going to be a part of that. He came to announce the Messiah, and he thought that he was going to be a part of that. And so disillusionment for John meant, hey, Jesus, I get that there's blessing, but where's the rest of it? Where's the judgment? Where's the kicking the oppressors out? Where's the, hey, kick Herod off of his throne because he's a puppet king and sit there instead, Jesus? Where's this? And so disillusionment presents an opportunity. It presented an opportunity for John to ask Jesus to voice his, hey, Jesus. It presented him an opportunity. He was wrestling with something, and he said, hey, Jesus, this is what's going on with me. Speak into this, okay? It presented an opportunity for Jesus, truthfully, to address the questions of a nation. John wasn't the only one wondering this. At this point in Matthew 11, there's increasing tension around the message of Jesus. There's increasing tension over the fact that, hey, seems like the Messiah, he's doing these miracles, he's going around healing people, raising people from the dead, but he's going to the poor. He's not going to the rich. He's going to the people that are oppressed, beaten down, broken in spirit, disillusioned, right? These are the people he's going to. He's not going and just walking into Pilate's courtyard and saying, hey, get out of here. Okay, so disillusionment presents an opportunity. It presents an opportunity in our own lives when we face this disillusionment with Jesus, when how we think about him doesn't match up with what we see in Scripture. That is an opportunity to talk to him and voice that, okay? We'll see how Jesus responds, but I don't want us to miss this, okay? So it's an opportunity. Disillusionment also reveals our expectations, okay? So it revealed John's expectations, revealed the expectations of that entire culture of him. And often, these expectations are attached to our idols. Often they're attached to the things that we worship and that we love more than God and more than Jesus. Okay? So when we go through disillusionment, when we face disillusionment, which is an inevitability in this life, then I want us to remember that it is an opportunity and it reveals our expectations. It reveals the things that we are holding on tightly to and aren't sure if we want to let go. Okay? So let's keep going. Let's see how Jesus responded. And Jesus answered them, "Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, leopards are cleansed, and the deaf hear. And the dead are raised up, and the poor have good news preached to them." Let's pause. Just pause. Everything Jesus says right here is from the book of Isaiah, which Jesus was a Bible nerd, so he knew that. John was a Bible nerd, so John knew that, right? John knew all of these things were things that the Messiah was meant to do and was destined to do and prophesied to do, okay? So Jesus' response to John is like, "Hey, man, what do you see? These are the things that I'm doing. Do you think I'm the Messiah?" But I appreciate in this text that he takes John's question seriously. He didn't say, "Hey, John, you've known me for 30-something years. You're doubting me now?" Didn't get offended by it. He just said, hey, he took his question seriously and answered him honestly. "Hey, look around you. What do you see?" And just a fun fact, the blind receiving their sight, that's only prophesied about the Messiah and only done by Jesus, which is so cool to me. And then let's keep going. Verse 6. "Blessed is the one who is not offended by me." Another way to say this, because blessed can get a little comfortable and also abstract for us. The good life belongs to those who do not stumble because of me. Okay, that's another way to think about this. The good life belongs to those who do not stumble because of me, which leads us to our next one. In that disillusionment presents us with two choices. Okay, disillusionment presents us with two choices. It invites a response. Okay, so when we're disillusioned, we can have, Jesus gives us options right here. In the text, we can stumble over him, which really means that we can hold on to our expectations. We can hold on to what we were placing our hope in. We can hold on to what we wanted, what we thought was best, and what we think is best. Or we can lay those down and take him as he is and as he talks to us. Does that make sense? Heads. I got some heads. Okay. So another way to think about that is disillusionment when, if we're not stumbling, is take up your cross and follow me. Okay, that's another way that the Bible talks about that. Right? Take up your cross and follow me. So he who, you can give away your whole life, or you can, so yeah, disillusionment requires a response. So, later in this text, later in chapter 11, Jesus goes on to talk about, right after this, he actually affirms John's ministry and affirms that John is the prophet of Elijah, or come back, right? And then he keeps going. He does a parable, and then just kind of talking through the two choices with the blessed. And finally, we get to what he wraps up. He wraps up this chapter in chapter 11 with unrepentant cities and come to me and I will give you rest. Those two sections. Okay, so he had been walking around preaching in Galilee, and he had done a lot of miracles in a lot of places, and those places were not repenting. And so Jesus, just proclaimed, hey, this is what stumbling looks like. Holding on to your way of life, holding on to the things that we want and we want best, as opposed to following the way of Jesus, okay? But he clarifies it even more on what it means to not stumble because of him, and that's in verse 28. So 11:28. "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Come to me. So there's a personal invitation from the creator of the universe. I think there's something unique about Christianity there, and the fact that we have a personal God who condescended to come down here and lay down his life for us, right? That's a unique thing, and that's a call to a person, and that's important. It's a call to a person in that we can personally know Jesus, and he can personally know us. He's walked where we walk, and he's wrestled with the things that we've wrestled with. Obviously, he didn't sin, so he wrestled in a different way. But he knows what it is to be tempted here. And truthfully, Jesus, who is perfect and sinless and holy, that means he felt that even more acutely. He felt the offense of sin more acutely, and means he can sympathize in ways we probably can't fully understand. Okay, but he invites us to come to him and then to learn from him. Okay, which I think is so cool. You guys did, I believe you did a series on practicing the way. That ring any bells? Practicing the way of Jesus? No, maybe. No, might have been middle school. Yeah. All right, come on. There we go. Practicing the way of Jesus, following the way of Jesus. So Jesus calls us to a pattern of life. He doesn't call people to just be Christians and then to get the barcode and move on. He calls people to a pattern of life, okay? And that's one that we will not walk perfectly, but that is a call to relationship and following a person, all right? So, navigating disillusionment in life means setting our hope and expectation in somebody who will always be sufficient. All right, so I said our bookends, right? Disillusionment in life, disillusionment with Jesus. Having disillusionment in life means setting our hope and expectation in somebody who will always be sufficient. Money will pass away, fame will fade. If you want a longer list of all the things that will fade away, Ecclesiastes is a book full of them, okay? And so feel free to read that. But I pulled two quotes to kind of paint this picture for us from people that aren't Christians, so that you kind of see that this recognizing the illusions of this world and the disillusionment with misplaced hope, the outcomes that come from that. So anybody know Tom Brady? Tom Brady? That was quiet for Tom Brady. Maybe the best quarterback of all time. Y'all are like, Patrick Mahomes, man, get out of here. But Tom Brady, this is 2005, so he still won Super Bowls after this. But Tom Brady, 2005, he was interviewing with a guy whose last name was Croft, and this is just a snapshot from that. There are times, this is Tom Brady speaking, there are times when I'm not the person that I want to be. Why do I have 3 Super Bowl rings and still think that there's something greater out there for me? I mean, maybe a lot of people would say, hey man, this is what it is. I reached my goal, my dream, my life. Me, I think, God, it's got to be more than this. I mean, this can't be what it's all cracked up to be. I mean, I've done it. I'm 27. What else is there for me? And then the reporter asks him, well, what's the answer? And then Tom Brady says, I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Tom Brady's a pretty successful guy. Fame, money, he can literally do anything and it'll be successful. Right? And he recognized that there was something missing in that. Another guy, Jim Carrey. Does anybody know Jim Carrey? Yes. Yeah, okay, that was better. All right, that was better. Jim Carrey, this is a more famous quote. I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed so that they can see that that is not the answer. Okay? If we place our hope in the things of this world where moth and rust destroy, they will fade away. But placing our hope in the person of Jesus is a sure and firm foundation. All right? So, if we're going to navigate the disillusionment in this life, we have to place our hope and our expectation in a person. But deeper than that, navigating disillusionment with Jesus means following the way that Jesus leads rather than the way that we want him to lead. All right? So what really comes to my mind for this is take up your cross and follow me. But my wife, when we first met, so we met on we met as backups for a blind double date, which is pretty darn far down the tree, like, truthfully. I didn't want to go, she didn't want to go, but we both ended up going, and now we're married with 3 kids. So our first date was a blind double date. The second date, we were in Nashville, Tennessee. Second date was, I was like, you know what? It's a little chilly outside, but not too cold. Nashville's pretty, like with the hills and the trees and the sun, like when it sets. So I was going to go for a walk around a lake, and I was going to get her coffee on the way there. I was like, this will be so good. Like, guys, this is going to be so good. And so I asked her what she wanted to drink for coffee, and she said black coffee. I was like, be honest. Like, I can afford $5. Like, we can go a little bit higher. She's like, no, really, black coffee. I was like, no, really, like, I don't believe you. So I got a peppermint latte, which I liked, and I got maybe pumpkin spice. I was like, surely between these 2 things, like, she's gonna like one of them. And turns out, guys, she likes black coffee. And she was like, I didn't know what to say on our first date, but I really like black coffee, so thanks, Zach. So I took the 2 lattes that I liked, and we went for a walk around the lake. And on that walk, she explained to me how the Lord had, one of the biggest things that the Lord had ever taught her was the releasing of her hands, okay? Because she grew up in a tradition where she did not believe that she could be honest with God. She didn't believe that she could be transparent, that Jesus couldn't handle her emotions, that Jesus couldn't handle the fullness of her hope, her anger, her fear. She grew up believing that Jesus had to be on a pedestal, like he had to be up here, protected from the real dirtiness of her life, right? So that was her expectation of Jesus, that like he's somebody to be protected and safe up here, away from the muck down here, okay? But the Lord took her through a really hard season. She went through wrestling with anxiety and depression for a long time and she like went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, hey, like physically, like you're okay. She thought it was like a stomach thing, and like physically you're okay. So like whatever this is, like it's anxiety related, and it's hard, and it's in your heart right now. And she took that to the Lord and prayed over and over and over again. And the Lord slowly, the way she tells it, the Lord slowly peeled her fingers back of these expectations that she had of him, right? He's like, Amy, I can handle your emotions. Amy, I can handle your fear, your anger, your hurt. I didn't come from heaven to earth to stay up here. Came from heaven to earth to be down here in our lives with us, drawing close to us when things are hard and drawing close to us when we're celebrating. Okay? So, navigating the darkness of disillusionment, we let go of our expectations of Jesus and learn to practice and follow the way of Jesus. It seems like a simple thing, truthfully, but Dane Ortland has this quote, and he wrote Gentle and Lowly. Dane Ortland has a quote, says, the Christian walk is deconstructing what we think we know about Jesus and reconstructing that according to the Bible, okay? Deconstructing what we think we know about Jesus, reconstructing that according to the Bible, okay? And that's illusion and disillusionment right there. We're tearing down, deconstructing the illusions of Jesus and of this world and reconstructing that according to the Bible, all right? So if you grew up in church, you're like, man, the Bible doesn't seem super exciting. Like, there are big names and words that are hard to understand and pronounce, and it's like choppy, and there are genealogies. Like, Matthew starts with the genealogy. What's that about? Like, if you're somebody who has grown numb to the scriptures, like, I just want to encourage you that like we have a dynamic God. We don't have a boring God. If you look in the Bible and when God interacted with his people, it wasn't in a boring way, right? Like when God was there, like, whoo. I mean, lightning bolts, like all kinds of crazy stuff. Mount Sinai, that was an intense moment, okay? Like when God came and when God acts, it's a powerful thing, okay? And so my hope is that I don't know where you guys are at in your walk with the Lord tonight, but my encouragement and my hope would be that you're constantly reconstructing how you think about Jesus, how you think about this world, according to the Bible. All right? So to close us, at least close my time with you, I want to read a liturgy from Every Moment Holy. Liturgy is a really Bible-sounding word. Liturgy, like, it's kind of a structured prayer. And so the reason I'm doing it, the reason I want to read it now, is like a couple of reasons. One, like this teaches us, this kind of helps walk us through, hey, what does it look like to take our disillusionment to God? Okay, so that's one reason I wanted to do it. Another reason I wanted to do it is because, like, you saw how many people have walked through disillusionment just in their life, let alone in the current season that they're in, or something like. So I wanted to kind of pray this over us to close my time with you. And before I do that, I want to give you a few seconds to close your eyes and think about when have you held on tightly to your expectations and your expectations been shattered? I want to think, when have you held on tightly to misplaced hope and that's been shattered? Okay, so just take a few seconds, think about that, and then I'm going to read this. O Christ, in whom the final fulfillment of all hope is held secure, I bring to you now the weathered fragments of my former dreams, the broken pieces of my expectations, the rent patches of hope worn thin, the shards of some shattered image of life as I once thought it would be. What I so wanted has not come to pass. I invested my hopes in desires that returned only sorrow and frustration. Those dreams, like glimmering fairy feasts, could not sustain me. And in my head, I know that you are sovereign even over this, over my tears, my confusion, my disappointment. But I still feel in this moment as if I have been abandoned, as if you do not care that these hopes have collapsed to rubble. Yet I know this is not so. You are the sovereign of my sorrow. You apprehend a wider sweep with wiser eyes than mine. So let me remain tender now to how you would teach me. My disappointments reveal so much about my own agenda for my life and the ways I quietly demand that it should play out. Free of conflict, free of pain, free of want. Our dreams are also small. Your bigger purpose has always been for my greatest good. That I would day to day be fashioned into a more fit vessel for the indwelling of your spirit and molded into a more compassionate emissary of your coming kingdom. And you in love will use all means to shape my heart into those perfect forms. So let this disappointment do its work. You are the king of my collapse. You answer not what I demand, but what I do not even know to ask. Now take this dream, this husk, this chaff of my desire, and give it back, reformed and remade according to your better vision, or do not give it back at all. Here in the ruins of my wrecked expectation, let me make this best confession. Not my dreams, O Lord, not my dreams, but yours be done. Amen.